Today we're going into none other than the one, the only, H.H. Holmes. Yee. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Researching H.H. Holmes is so impossible. I don't know how anyone does it. Every website I went to had like conflicting information. So I was like, which one is right? What's a reliable source? So, it was very hard researching this, but I got some stuff done, and I got some treats for you, so that you're not disappointed by my piss poor research. Anyway, without further ado, if you don't know who H.H. Holmes is, he is known as America's first serial killer. He built a castle and it's believed he took over 200 victims. Early life, this is where I was very frustrated. H.H. Holmes was born as Herman Mudgett on May 16th, 1861 in Gilmanton, New Hampshire. He later changed his name because his name was Herman Mudgett. Why wouldn't he? Like I said, every website has like conflicting information, so I'm just gonna say he either had a loving father or he had an abusive father. We don't know. He either had no serial killer tendencies as a child, or he may have tortured and killed animals. He may or may not have killed a fellow child when he was a child. He went to medical school where it's believed he was stealing cadavers for insurance fraud. I'm pretty sure that's true. From what I know about Jack the Ripper, he would do insurance fraud a lot, so I'm pretty sure that's true. But at this point, I kept finding conflicting information. Some websites would be like, that's actually not true. And I was like, what? Nani? And so I have here in my notes, I just put fuck it, wiki that shit. And so from here on out, everything I tell you is just dead ass off Wikipedia. So yeah, that's just where I got most of my Holmes information, because I got tired of every website on planet Earth saying a different dang thing about him. I figured Wiki's probably the most general consensus of what happened, and I don't care how much your 9th grade history teacher hates it. I'll kick his ass. I'll fight him. I'll do it. So don't even worry about it. I don't care if he takes 10% off my grade. Alright. Holmes arrived in Chicago August of 1886, which is when he began using the name H.H. Holmes. He came across Elizabeth S. Holton's drugstore at the northwest corner of South Wallace Avenue and West 63rd Street at Inglewood. Holton gives Holmes a job, and he proved to be a hard-working employee. Hi, Russo. Hi. I hope you're excited to learn about H.H. Holmes. Hello, Urza. Hello. Alright, where was I? Holton gave Holmes a job where he proved to be a hard-working employee and eventually bought the store. Several books portray Holton's husband as an old man who quickly vanished along with his wife. Dr. Holton was a fellow Michigan alumnus, only a few years older than Holmes, and both Holtons remained in Inglewood throughout Holmes' life and survived well into the 20th century. It's a myth that they were killed by Holmes. Likewise, Holmes did not kill alleged castle victim Miss Kate Durkee, who turned out to be very much alive. Okay. I misread that for a second. That's why I was confused. I thought they were about to say Holmes did not build a castle. I was like, what? No, that's his whole thing. What are you talking about? Okay. Holmes purchased an empty lot across from the drugstore, where the construction began in 18... I know how to read. I'm so sorry. I'm still bad at reading. I'm a little less awkward than I was last time, though, so that I got that going for me. Where construction began in 1887 for a two-story mixed-use building. I can see Detective Candy's live finally got on stream. Thank you for coming by. I'm glad to be solving the case with you. Thank you. With apartments on the second floor and retail spaces, including a new drugstore. The creditor of Holmes was named John Brulele. He died of apoplexy. I don't need to know how to read to solve cases, okay? It is unknown if Holmes was involved in his demise. When Holmes declined to pay the architects or the steel company, they sued in 1888. In 1892, he added a third floor, telling investors and suppliers he intended to use it as a hotel during the World's Columbian Exposition, though the hotel portion was never completed. In 1892, the hotel was somewhat completed, but you just said it wasn't ever completed. Okay, whatever. With 3 stories and a basement, the first floor was a storefront. The second story consisted of his elaborate torture rooms, which contained a chute that led to the basement. The third floor held more apartment rooms. There were soundproof rooms and mazes of hallways. Some seemed to go nowhere. Many of them were outfitted with chutes that would drop straight down to the basement, where Holmes had acid vats, quicklime, crematorium to dispose of bodies. Furniture suppliers found Holmes was hiding their materials, for which he had never paid. In hidden rooms, passages throughout the building, search made the news, and the investors for the planned hotel pulled out of the deal when a jeweler, I'm assuming that's a jewelry person, in the building showed them the articles. In 1894, some police officers inspected the hotel while Holmes was out. During the inspection, they found rooms with hinged walls, false partitions linked with secret passageways, and even airtight rooms that were connected to pipelines filled with gas, which Holmes used as gas chambers. So police literally they were like, oh, this looks like a torture house. Holmes would use chutes to deliver the bodies to the basement. Once there, he made surgical tables and arrays of medical tools to dissect them before selling their organs and bones on the black market or to medical institutions. How do you sell that stuff to medical institutions, though? Like, how do you do that without being like, I murdered this person? Like, how do you do that? How do you not? I just found this corpse on the street. Here you go, doc. That's silly. I feel like if you're a medical institution, you should ask questions when corpses and organs are donated to you. But, we didn't have the technology to use our brains back then. The hotel was gutted by the fire started by an unknown arsonist. Not me. I've told you guys before, I'm an alleged arsonist. So this was not me. Just putting that out there. The hotel was gutted by an unknown arsonist shortly after Holmes was arrested, but was largely rebuilt and used as a post office till 1938. Oh, okay, I'm following what that sentence was. You ever read a sentence like 10 times and you're still like, what the heck? Okay, now I know what's going on. Besides his infamous murder castle, Holmes also had a one-story factory which he claimed to be used for the glass bending. It is unknown if the factory furnace was ever used for glass bending or just for cremating incriminating evidence of Holmes's crimes. Okay, let's go on to the murders. The murders. One of Holmes' early murder victims was his mistress. Goodness. Julia Smith? That's a weird way to spell Smith, but I think that's Smith. Julia Smith. She was the wife of Ned Connor, who had moved into Holmes' building and began working his pharmacy as a jewelry counter. What world do we live in where jewelry was sold at pharmacies? The olden days sure were wacky. After Connor found out about the affair with Holmes, he quit his job and moved away, leaving Smith and her daughter Pearl behind. Smith gained custody of Pearl and remained at the hotel, continuing her relationship with Holmes. That's very weird. Why would he just leave his daughter? Did he leave, or is that just the story Holmes said? We gotta get the facts here. Julia and Pearl disappeared on Christmas Eve, 1891, and Holmes later claimed that she died during an abortion, though what truly happened was never confirmed. Now, very suspicious, very, very suspicious. You think you can outsmart my detective brain, H.H. Holmes? There's something fishy in these waters. Another likely Holmes victim was Emmeline Cigrand. She began working in the building in May 1892 and disappeared that December. Another woman who vanished was Edna Van Tassel, who is believed to have been one of Holmes's victims. I hope we don't just start listing off, like they said that it's believed that there's over 200 victims, so I hope we're just not listing off every single one. Holmes' usual murder method was by suffocation. Please, just a list of names. That'd be hilarious. Very bold, very bold. Holmes' usual murder method was suffocation of his victims, including an overdose of chloroform, exposure to lighting gas, fumes, trapped airless walls, to give for some examples. Holmes also claimed to have used starvation and burning victims alive in his castle. He was very creative with it, I'll give him that. He definitely had his fun with it, I guess. While working with the Chemical Bank building on Dearborn Street, Holmes met and became close friends with Benjamin Pitzel. We'll call him Benji. A carpenter with a criminal past who was exhibiting in the same building a coal bin that he had invented. Holmes used Benji as his right-hand man for several criminal schemes. Early in 1893, a one-time actress named Minnie Williams moved to Chicago. Holmes claimed to have met her in an employment office, though there were rumors he had met her in Boston years earlier. He offered her a job at his hotel as a personal stenographer, and she accepted. Holmes persuaded Williams to transfer the deed to her property to Fort Worth, Texas, to a man named Alexander Bond. This was an alias of Holmes's, so he persuaded this person to transfer a deed to him, but they didn't know it was him. How do you not know, though? Like, maybe I should have went into more detail, but yeah, excuse me. But like, how do you convince somebody to sign a deed over and, like, I would assume she never met this Alexander Bond because it's literally just Holmes. Like, imagine if he like came there with a disguise, like a fake mustache over his real mustache, and he's like, "Us, I am Alexander Bond." I don't mean to make fun of this victim. It's just that sounds silly. I'm sure he was a very manipulative man. In April 1893, Williams transferred the deed, and Holmes serving as a notary. Holmes later signed the deed over to Benji, giving him the alias Benton T. Lyman. The next month, Holmes and Williams, presenting themselves as husband and wife, rented an apartment in Chicago's Lincoln Park. Minnie's sister Annie came to this in July. She wrote that her aunt planned to accompany her brother Harry to Europe. Neither Minnie nor Annie were seen alive after July 5th, 1893. Holmes had an entrepreneurial spirit. Based off his former medical education and his connections, he was able to sell skeletons to medical labs and schools. He and sometimes hired assistants were accused of stripping the flesh off the bodies, dissecting them, preparing the viable skeletons. The rest of the remains would be tossed in pits of lime or acid, effectively breaking down the remaining evidence. Now let's go to the capture and the arrest. With assurance companies pressing to prosecute him for arson, Holmes left Chicago in July 1894, the year. I can't read, I'm so sorry. He reappeared in Fort Worth, where he inherited property from Williams sisters at the intersection of modern-day Commerce Street and 2nd Street. Here he once again attempted to build an incomplete structure without paying his supplier and contractors. I don't get why he doesn't pay people. He's doing all these insurance fraud things. Like, he has some money, I'm sure. Oh, what's happening? Oh, thank you. Thank you for the sub. Thank you very much. Thank you. Don't worry about it. Oh gosh, where was I? Oh yeah, he refused to pay suppliers. In July 1894, Holmes was arrested and briefly jailed for the first time on the charge of selling mortgage goods in St. Louis, Missouri. He was promptly bailed out, but while in jail he struck up a conversation with convicted outlaw Marion Hedgepeth, who was serving a 25-year sentence. Holmes concocted a plan to swindle the insurance company out of $10,000 by taking out the policy on himself, then faking his death. How much was $10,000 back in the 1800s? I'm gonna Google that real quick. I'm very curious. Unless they just dialed it down to our time, but I'm just gonna look up anyway. How that had to have been a lot of money, right? Oh, I'm hitting all my hotkeys, aren't I? I'm just very curious, okay? Probably millions in modern day? Maybe. Apparently it's, 257,650. That's a lot of dollars. Anyways, sorry about that. A couple $100,000. That should be the total, assuming the math is correct. Holmes promised Hedgepeth $500 in exchange for the name of a lawyer who could be trusted. Holmes was directed to young St. Louis attorney named Jephthah Howe. Howe was practiced with his older brother, Alphonso Howe, who had no involvement in this at all. Jephthah Howe, however, found Holmes' scheme brilliant. Nevertheless, Holmes' plan to fake his own death failed when the insurance company became suspicious and refused to pay. I mean, well, when you're asking for your own, death money, they're definitely gonna be like, no, sir, you're wearing a fake mustache over your regular mustache, you silly goose. I'm not giving you this money. They didn't fall for his scheme this time. Holmes did not press the claim. Instead, he concocted a plan with his buddy Benji. You guys remember Benji? Benji Pretzel. He's cool. He's not that cool, but so far he doesn't seem like awful. Anyway, we have Benji, and he agrees to fake his own death. His wife could collect $10,000 on his life insurance policy, which she could split with Holmes and Hal. But what about the inmate that he was planning to give the money to? It seems like they forgot about him in this little plan. I'm not sure if that's gonna backfire in the future, but I imagine it would. The scheme, which was to take place in Philadelphia, called for Benji to set himself up as an inventor under B.F. Perry. Oh, it's Twitch buffering. I am so sorry. I don't know how I would be able to fix that. If I knew how, I would. Yeah! Thank you so much for this sub, Broken Nut. Thank you very much. Thank you. Benji was to set himself up as an inventor under the B.F. Perry, then be killed and disfigured in a lab explosion. It's fine, it's not your fault. Yeah, but if there was any way I could help, I've seen it happen in other streams too. Yeah, sometimes Twitch is just wonky. I'm gonna learn how... I'm just trying to learn how Twitch works. Yeah, Twitch is very, very hard to understand. I'm still figuring it out myself. Alright, Holmes was to find an appropriate cadaver to play the role of Benji. Instead, Holmes killed Benji by knocking him unconscious with chloroform, setting his body on fire with the use of benzene, and in his confession, Holmes implied that Benji was still alive after he used his, I don't know how to spend money on here. I've told you before, I set up a donation thing. I didn't bring it up because I feel like that'd be a little classless. I don't know. I also just feel so awkward when I e-beg. But if you scroll down and click the deal, you should be able to donate. That's only if you want to. No pressure to donate or anything. I'm not even sure I have an alert set up for that, so I'm not sure if I would know. I think I do. Some of the alerts work, some of them don't. But aren't subs cooler? I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't really... I'm happy to get subs. I don't know, but... OMG, Holmes, you devil. Stop killing people. Yeah. Holmes is really, like... Holmes has no chill. He's such a loser. In his confession, Holmes implied Benji was still alive after he used the chloroform on him before he set him on fire. However, forensic evidence presented at Holmes' later trial showed that chloroform had been administered after Benji's death. That's odd. A fact which the insurance company was unaware of. Presumably to fake suicide and exonerate Holmes. But you set him on fire. Look, I know some suicide methods can be a little wonky sometimes, but I don't think there's many people that are gonna set themselves on fire then chloroform themselves. I don't know what Holmes was thinking. This just sounds very weird. I get it makes sense, kill him and he doesn't have to split the money, but the money is going to his wife, so I don't know what the plan is. If you kill her husband, she's not gonna share the money with you, you lunatic. Okay, Holmes collected insurance payout on the basis that of the genuine Benji corpse. Holmes then went to manipulate the method. Yeah, I don't know the method either. Holmes then went to manipulate Benji's unsuspecting wife by allowing 3 of her 5 children, Alice, Nellie, and Howard, to be placed in his custody? How weird. The eldest daughter and the baby remained with Miss Pretzel. Holmes and the 3 Pretzel children traveled throughout the northern United States into Canada. Simultaneously, he escorted Miss Pretzel along the parallel route while using various aliases and lying to her concerning her husband's death, claiming he was hiding in London. So that's how he was able to get the money from her. She didn't even know her husband was actually dead. That's so sad for her. I feel so sad for her. She thought he was okay. That's sad. As well as to lying to her about the whereabouts of her 3 missing children. Why did he take her children? I gotta get more details on this manipulation because that just doesn't make sense. In Detroit, just before entering Canada, they were only separated by a few blocks. I mean, she was in on the insurance scam. Yeah, but it was the goal was to fake the death, not for her husband to actually die. I'm not saying she's a saint or nothing, but it certainly is sad, I would say, if you think your husband's alive. In an even more audacious move, Holmes was staying at another location with his wife, who was unaware of everything. Holmes would later confess to murdering Alice and Nellie by forcing them into a large trunk and locking them inside. He drilled a hole in the lid of the trunk and put one end of the hose through the hole, attaching the other end to gas to I know how to say this word. He suffocated the girls. Holmes buried their bodies in the cellar of his rental house on 16th Street, Vincent, in Toronto. This home address no longer exists, St. Vincent Street having long since been realigned to a part of Bay Street. Asphyxiated the girl. You guys know the word I was trying to say. Frank Geyer, a Philadelphia police detective assigned to investigate Holmes and find 3 missing children, found the decomposed bodies of the girls in the cellar of the Toronto home. Detective Geyer wrote, "The deeper we dug, the more horrible the odor became. And when we reached the depth of the 3 feet, we realized what appeared to be bone and forearm of a human being." He went on to Indianapolis, where Holmes had rented a cottage. Holmes was reported to have visited he didn't visit a young woman. He visited a local pharmacy to purchase drugs, the drugs that he used to kill Howard Pretzel, and a repair shop to sharpen the knives, which he used to chop up the body and burn it. The boy's teeth and bits of bones were discovered in the chimney. Holmes' murder spree finally ended when he was arrested in Boston, November 17th, 1894, after being tracked there from Philadelphia by the Pinkertons. You can't just bring that name out of nowhere. Who the hell are they? He was held on an outstanding warrant. Oh, well, at least his warrant was cool or amazing. For horse theft in Texas. He was stealing horses in Texas, guys. This man was doing it all. Because the authorities had become more suspicious at this point, and Holmes appeared to post. I can read. Give me a second. Okay, I think this sentence is saying that they were worried Holmes would leave the country. I don't know why it's worded so weirdly, but they thought Holmes would leave the country in the company of his wife, who had no clue anything was going on. In July 1895, following the discovery of Alice and Nellie's bodies, Chicago police and reporters began investigating Holmes's building in Inglewood, now locally referred to as the Castle. Though many sensational claims were made, no evidence was found that could convict Holmes in Chicago. According to Seltzer, stories of torture equipment found at the building is fiction. In October 1895, Holmes was put on trial for the murder of Benjamin Pretzel and was found guilty and sentenced to death. to death. It was evidence Holmes had also murdered the 3 children. Following his conviction, Holmes confessed to 27 murders in Chicago, Indianapolis, and Toronto, though some of the people he confessed to murdering turned up alive. He also confessed to 6 more attempted murders. Holmes was paid $7,500 by the Hearst newspaper in exchange for his confession, which was mostly found to be nonsense. Don't pay this man, you silly gooses. This man's already going to be sentenced to death, no matter what he confesses to at this point. They already know he murdered a man and his children. I get you want the information, but don't give this man money, you silly buffoon. Holmes gave various contradictory accounts of his life, initially claiming innocence, later that he was possessed by Satan. His propensity for lying. The fact he lies a lot makes it difficult for researchers to understand the truth of his statements. That's probably why every website has different information about him. That makes sense why it's so hard. While writing his confessions in prisons, Holmes mentioned how drastically his facial appearance had changed since his imprisonment. He described his new grim appearance as gruesome and taking a satanical cast. Oh gosh, what a drama queen. He wrote that he was now convinced, after everything he'd done, he was beginning to resemble the devil. May 7th, 1896, Holmes was hanged in the Moa-Mincing prison, also known as the Philadelphia County Prison. Why didn't you just say that? For the murder of Pitzel. Until the very moment of his death, Holmes remained calm, showing very few signs of fear, anxiety, or depression. Despite this, he asked for his coffin to be contained in cement and buried 10 feet deep because he was concerned grave robbers would steal his body and use it for dissection. In fact, I hope they did. I mean, he had no issue doing that crap to corpses. He didn't have any problem doing that to people who were living beings. When in doubt, always blame it on the devil. Yeah, definitely. A lot of murderers do that. Yeah, the irony. He was scared of that happening to him, and yet he did it to so many people. During his execution, when they hung him, apparently Holmes' neck did not break, so he strangled to death slowly, twitching for over 15 minutes before being pronounced dead at 20 minutes after the trap had been sprung. Upon his execution, Holmes' body was put in an unmarked grave at Holy Cross Cemetery, a Catholic cemetery in Philadelphia, western suburb of Uden, Pennsylvania. That's karma for you. Yeah, definitely. Very, I'm actually, one of those that's actually against the death penalty, but in cases like this, I'm not feeling bad for these people, if that makes sense. I'm not mourning these people. They're awful people. So, I can't say I feel bad that he had a slow, painful death, honestly. In 2017, amid allegations that Holmes had in fact escaped execution, I don't know how that could be true. They watched him dangle for 20 minutes. You think they'd have had enough time to see, oh, that's not our guy. But, apparently Holmes' body was exhumed for testing, and due to his coffin being contained in cement, his body was found to have not decomposed normally. His clothes were almost perfectly preserved, his mustache was still intact, and his body was positively identified by his teeth as belonging of Holmes. Then he was reburied.